Well, preparations are underway for tomorrow's annual March for Life rally. Tens of thousands of people are expected to take part in what will be the 50th March for Life. And joining us now to discuss the movement is Virginia Tech professor Dr. Farida Jalalzai. Dr. Jalalzai, thanks for joining us. Okay, let's talk about this march that's set to take place this weekend. How's the process and the preparations going, and what do you expect to happen this weekend?
I feel that there's going to be a lot of discussions on both sides of the issue about what kind of reactions can be given voice. We obviously, if we're looking at it from the perspective of women's rights, we're, I think, thinking about counter protests and being able to raise one's voice in the aftermath of the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And on the other side, those who are passionate about the right to life are going to be, I think, galvanizing so that they can push the message even further and perhaps build on some of the leverage that they've experienced with that decision. I would also like to say that this is the 5th anniversary of the Women's March that took place in cities all over the country and all over the world that brought 4 million together, hoping to bring voice to issues related to women's empowerment.
Yeah, and it was a huge one back in 2017, you know, which pretty much was the pinnacle of the whole Me Too movement. Obviously, we were talking about Harvey Weinstein, and then President Donald Trump, you know, there was some issues with his threat to women's rights that a lot of people took issues with. And there were so many people there. Now, the center issue here, is it the whole Roe v. Wade for this march?
Well, so when we're looking at the headlines for bringing together the 2023 March for Life, reproductive rights, or protesting reproductive rights are a central issue. But I think when we think about the counter protests that would be likely, it's going to give voice not just to reproductive rights and talking about the backsliding that women have experienced when it comes to reproductive rights. It's going to be a larger agenda. And when I think about that, I think about a whole host of issues, whether we're talking about violence against women as being an important issue, employment equality, the list, sexual harassment that you had mentioned as well. The list can go on and on and on. So what I think we'll be able to see are passionate people on both sides of that particular issue, life and choice, but also something broader, and making sure that questions about women's empowerment are debated, but done so hopefully in a very respectful and civil manner in what is, if we think about contemporary U.S. politics, a very divisive time.
And real quick, what kind of strides do you think that these marches have made over the past 5-6 years?
And if I'm thinking about marches for women's equality, I think what's happened is you've seen these pivotal moments like the march in D.C. 5 years ago, but also it's given way to a more of an objective to try to sustain people's belief in empowering different groups and maybe having an intersectional perspective in doing that, having more people participate in the political process as voters, running for office. And so it's really not so much the work that's done the day of the march. It's more about what happens after, in between. And so really thinking about political participation beyond beyond these really historic or attention-grabbing moments. It's the work that's done in between elections even as well.
Yeah. Again, that march will take place tomorrow. Virginia Tech professor Dr. Farida Jalalzai, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.